the war on your worship. And what I've learned is that if I love God more than anything else, the method of my worship doesn't matter nearly as much as the fact of my worship. Good preaching, Pastor. You see, when you're in love with yourself, the method of your worship is more important to you than the fact of your worship. But when you're in love with God, it's the fact of your worship that's the most important thing, not the method of your worship. Worship is intended to be the desire of your heart. That's why in Acts chapter 13, verse 22, Paul would write about David that David was a man after God's own heart. Now you got to understand what Paul was writing here. If you really want to understand the meaning of this, you got to understand what he was writing, because he's not saying that David was a man just like God's own heart, because David was a liar and an adulterer and a murderer and rebellious. And none of those things are in the heart of God. So Paul, when he says David is a man after God's own heart, is not saying that David is a man just like God's own heart. But what he was saying is that he's a man who's following God's heart. A man so in love with God that he's just chasing after the heart of God.